Okay. Got some food as well. Because the way I plan on doing this VOD review is a bit different as to the normal one. Because the VOD review here that I'm doing is meant to be like an offline VOD review where the person can go back and then look. So instead of just pausing and like asking questions and stuff, I'm literally just looking over the game and then explaining everything after, and making some minor comments there. And first thing I just want to add, this is play 98 tech, is that instead of taking armor rune, you take HP rune. Because HP rune gives you more damage. Nice, bro. I'm gonna name myself Man of Nature, man. So, armor and MR skills the same. Regardless, and if you're playing against mixed damage, then HP can be better later in the game anyway. And also, it just gives more damage. So, HP instead of armor, if you play 90 attack, I think it's better. Presence of mind is fine. Precious does take Triumph though. And both are viable, you just have to use UW a bit less. If you play Triumph. You have to like kind of learn to conserve your mana. There are obviously things both champions can do here, like Sarah should be in this bush, or they should ward it to make sure that Leona's not there, but since they should win level 1 most of the time, then they should be a bit more, take a bit more control of the bushes, I think. It is, however, now in the control of the Twitch to do that. So it doesn't really matter. I did watch this game before, but then the Twitch rage flashed and I stopped watching. But then I talked to him and asked if he wanted me to do it still, and he said yes. So just take it for that. And what we have currently is like a slow push into them. And that is something you can do. But then you need to kind of like get something for it. And now it doesn't really seem like anything is happening, or they're not getting anything from it. Ilya comes. Get summoners, so this is completely fine. Point into W. And we're still kind of just slow pushing. And I don't like this for a couple of reasons. Evelyn could come bot lane. And you're kind of like not doing anything now. So you just want to like shove this and then possibly recall, if anything. And again, we see literally kind of not doing anything at all. Bit of ward here. But something I've mentioned in my other videos, and I'm going to get back to this now. If you're shoving the wave like this, you're killing the potential of killing them. So what you want to do then is just fast shove this wave and then go into the jungle and just get control there, potentially like kill the enemy jungler. If you've seen the video, you'll see me do that. So the fact that this wave is just being like slow pushed and kind of like just left here in this awkward spot is just weird. And you just want to break this position instantly because you're like putting yourself in a bad spot. So ideally, when you shove this wave, you get this wave, you shove the second one, and you've kind of like established that this is shoving. You just want to shove the third one as well. So this wave comes, and I'd say roughly around this point here, the wave should have been dead. So when Sarah's pathing up here now, let's just take a look at the vision. We can see that Evelyn just came back. And something we could have done at this point is go up to the jungle, check the blue, put a ward there, see if Evelyn's on it. If it's not, then you have a ward there. And when you do spot her, if you're still maintaining the shove, you can go and invade her if you want. So that is one option of what to do if you're shoving the wave like this, but just leaving it like this is bad. Also, if you want, you can shove them on a turret and then allow Sarah to poke them, but I don't know. You don't really have much kill potential if you're leaving it like this. And now we'll see. If you would have put the ward there, we would have spotted Devlin at this point. Could have shoved this wave very easily. And then potentially gone and just killed her. So just knowing what to do with the first few waves is very important. And then just knowing where you can look for. And what you can do, what your options are. And like, these ward bushes are fine. But if you spot Evelyn here against like a Leona, she flashes on you, it's kind of too late. It's like the earlier you can get the information, so like even getting the ward here, or like on the blue, will give you like much more information, knowing that Evelyn spots side and just knowing if you need to play back or not. Like you don't necessarily need to like see Evelyn to know if she's going to be bot or not. That is something I'm planning covering later. So we can see right now, Twitch has around 900 gold, goes to a recall. And the item you want to pick up now is pickaxe. But he ends up picking up the recall bow. And I have problems with this build throughout the entire thing, and as I've said, I've watched this before. And I'll get over it again. But the correct purchase here would have been a pickaxe, and not this recall bow. If then it should be like a recall bow and like boots or something. But this is like really like an eco purchase, because it doesn't really do much. Like, pickaxe is way better. If you can. If you can't, then you have other options. Depending on what you're going for. But if you're doing like the precious build, then where you go Tiamat first. If you have less than 900 gold or something, then you ideally don't want to spend your money too much. Like you can get core and boots something. But just ideally you want to get that Tiamat or like pickaxe on the first buy. And Tiamat ruins your wave management, but it like allows you to like all in. So there's pros and cons to it as well. And this here could have been completely circumvented as well. Something I mentioned before is that if you're playing as Leona as an example, she can E for minions, right? So you need to understand that and respect that. Like if in a turret versus Leona, you can't really allow her to do this. Like if you're against Blitzcrank or Nautilus or Fresh, like it's a bit easier because you have minions you can hide behind and it's a bit more easy to play around in that sense, but against Leona, you just really have to respect that. And then especially if it's Jhin as well, right? Like he can just hit anything on you and then W you and then Leona can engage anyway. It's like especially these two champions, you're gonna have to just respect like that. So just some general like maybe disrespect or lack of understanding of the champions and what they can do. That's what I'm seeing. I mean, it's just odd piloting most of the time, so just being awake. Like, we see that with the first wave as well. Like, the first 3 minutes or 4 minutes, I always say you have no excuse to, like, fuck that up if you like laning. I mean, I do it too, but Like, you really shouldn't die level 2 or something, like, bot lane. It's, like, super predictable, unless, like, the jungler comes something, or you consciously go for, like, an all-in and you fail, then that's fair enough. But if you're dying to, like, some level 2 level up, and you're level 1 and you die, like, this, usually, like, you fucked up. The correct answer then is to just respect them. Sacrifice a few minutes, you realize you're against like a pike or something, he's sitting in the bush, you can't do anything, but you see the wave shoving, then just go back and wait on your turret. The longer the game goes on, then fair enough, but especially early game, like first 3-4 minutes, like you should be kind of perfect. You should have like a clear plan on like what you can or can't do. We see here now. Attempting to go for the Jhin. And this too is bad. Because now you put yourself in a position where you're between both. So ideally in this situation, even though Sire fucked up, like the best thing you could have done in this situation is just hit Leona. Because then Jhin still has to walk towards you and you have your ultimate and you can pre-stack your lethal tempo on the Leona, and then if the Jhin does walk up eventually, like you're not gonna take that much damage. As opposed to putting yourself in between both, allowing them to just guaranteed kill you. Because again, talking like 1v2 lanes and shit, then you always want to try and make situations 1v2. You never want to like put yourself in a position where you allow both champions to just hit you for free. Like if you're playing Sire Twitch and you walk up, like you obviously want to like aim towards like either like 1v2ing Leona or 1v2ing Jhin. Or like at worst you just have a 2v2. But you want to like try and isolate with like small gaps, like just creating like a small distance between one champion and then close to the other together. And then attack that person. Obviously Sire gets engaged on there, so it is what it is, but definitely putting yourself between both champions is a very bad idea there. But as I said, we're going to go over all these things later. I'm just talking as long as the game goes. There's nothing to add to this. It's just a fight that happens. I don't feel the need to like micro these kind of decisions. Like it's not. It's harder to learn and like teach as opposed to like the general things of the game. And I feel it's better to just focus on that. And now with the build, Seal, recurve ball. In season 8, like 9 maybe, this was a viable thing. You went Hurricane first with the BF sword, but that build doesn't really exist anymore. So now the only viable build you have if you're gonna rush Hurricane is Tiamat. If you're looking for like the same cost, kind of like cost-effective build, then it's Tiamat and Hurricane. You cannot build Hurricane first without any additional AD or anything, because you're not going to deal any damage at all. You are going to lose everyone. Like, you have 40 AD on your ultimate, but it's not going to be enough. You need some more. Like, maybe against some champions, but like, I mean, if you're even, it could be fine. But like, just overall, I just consider it to be really troll. Like, at least, at minimum, I would have liked to see a pickaxe then, if that's what you're doing. Like against Soraka, sometimes I'll go healing reduction into Hurricane with Tiamat, and that's completely fine. But again, it kind of depends. Like here we have a low on us, it's a bit harder to kill as well, so you kind of do need that extra damage. Now we see, right, go in the Leona, and it works out. Ideally, you would have wanted to continue going Leona for a bit there. And here we have the Rage Flash, which made me stop watching this game last time until I start talk to the guy. So we are going to continue. I will assume that the Hurricane is going to be completed now. But again, we are probably going to see this. that the build is really bad. They're not gonna do anything very soon. So I just really want to put emphasis, like, don't do this. Don't try this at home. You need more punch. And the reason why I didn't wanna do the VOD review of this game now is because when I'm VOD reviewing games like this where you get an ace and you're doing like semi-decent, you have like a good score and stuff, like you're mostly looking for the habits and the things you do wrong, which we already talked about. But then the other interesting thing to look at is how you could have won the game. Like how you could have 1v9 the game at some point. And that kind of disappears when this happens. When you rage flash and just waste your stuff like for nothing, then you kind of take away that ability to 1v9. Because again, I've mentioned countless times that having flash for Dragon and Baron stuff is just too good. Like, you need it. Like, flashing for a 1v1 kill before Dragon is not worth most of the time on Twitch. Keeping it for Dragon, having that reposition against, like, especially against someone like Leona, is invaluable. Like, there are no items that are going to make up for that. Other than maybe Gale Forth. Right. Like, right now, the game is completely stable. It's 7-9. Each team has one dragon each. Sarah's obviously dying here, and Evelyn's starting to come online, so that's unfortunate. But the game should be playable as long as you stay even or like just slightly behind, and you just play team fight objectives. Like, you have Jack's top lane, which is fine. Mundo's obviously great against Evelyn, but it's not the end of the world. You can see like the damage is very pitiful at the moment, even though you do kill him thanks to your ultimate giving extra AD. And the Jhin kinda not committing now. Especially with the exhaust, I feel like Jhin maybe could have done something different there, but I don't care to look back. It's completely fine by you to make that play when it worked out. Now Evelyn comes back. And we finally get to see the Tiamat. So your goal right now is staying even. Like, you have a huge spike right now. Like, your goal right now is to just stay healthy and just look for the next team fight. Because that's where you can make the most impact. Like, picking 1v1s and stuff is really difficult on Twitch, but making plays on, like, in team fights is a lot easier with this kind of build. So, like, right now, your focus should be on just catching XP, CS, and then play for the next team fight. Like Dragon, ultimately. It's just a free ticket to, like, get gold, get kills, and just, like, get yourself ahead. As opposed to, like, trying to pick someone 1v1. Because, again, it's just way harder on Twitch than any other champion. And it's also a lot harder to outplay someone in a 1v1 on Twitch as opposed to team fights. Like, you can't outplay the Mundo in a 1v1 because he'll just run you down. But if you're pressuring multiple people and you have other teammates there, it's going to be a lot harder for Mundo to do something about you. And we do see the flash coming up for this dragon. So, like, realistically right now, you guys should win the next dragon fight. Like, you have everything. Kane is, like, not too far behind. Like, sure, Evelyn's fed, but just one pink ward or something and just some zoning and you should be fine. So I don't want to see any flashes being used now before dragon. Ideally, you want to ask Kane or someone, or just, like, ask them to come to dragon and just say, like, I'm strong, come dragon. Like, that's what you want to do. And then just force that 5v5, make sure your team's there, and then fight properly. So like again, like using your ultimate right now would be bad. Up until perhaps this point here. Because if you kill them now, then you're obviously going to get dragon as well. And once people are dead, like this, then you could either look for dragon or just go back and then force the same situation again. You have flash still. As long as you don't use that randomly before the dragon again, I'm telling you, you'll win the dragon fight. Evelyn just used their flash. They're grouping now. Unfortunately, your ultimate's in a bit of a CD here. So that kind of like limits you, which is why you need to be really careful about which fight you choose to pick this on right before dragon. Because if it's the wrong fight, then you're not going to get anything. If it's the right fight, then you're going to get dragon, and you just go back to cycling the scaling. So like imagine the situation here as an example with the ultimate. Would have been perfect. But again, we get a really nice combo here. There is no problem. Evelyn unfortunately steals a Drake, but she should die because of that. Die for that. And you didn't use your flash. This is like the perfect situation. Nothing bad's happened since leaving lane. You kept your flash. Only unfortunate part was like not like getting anything from your ultimate. Like you did get some kills, but I would have maybe like looked to do a bit different. Or like forced harder, like you had summoners. And as long as you could like see flashes and stuff is up for dragon again, it's not an issue. So like if you're using your ultimate, you are kind of like in this moment you are really looking to go like all out. Like if you then flash like clean them up to like just ensuring you get the dragon, and then you just go back to that waiting of just the next objective again. I'm taking a mental note of this time in the game. But like, your team dying there is unnecessary. I don't see why they would die like that. So I don't know what to really add. And again, with this in mind, you have your abilities, you have your flash, you have your ghost. Like you need to know at this point that maybe like if you play it perfect, that you can kill their entire team. Huh. Alright. Now, we're going to look at this again. Just to kind of entertain the idea. Yeah. So what I'm showing you now is that the enemy team has no pings. They have no vision. Like, they have no chance of, like, seeing you. And I definitely see an opportunity to, like, kill them all here. And the reason why I bring this up is because I talked previously about, like, windows of which where you can, like, 1v9 the game, just win it. Right? It's obvious that they're going Baron. Based on everything you see, it is extremely obvious that they're going Baron. This play is already dead. And at this point here, I can still say, okay, it's fair enough that you go bot lane, like, it's understandable. But right after this wave here, and you spot the Seraph, you should have been leaving. Like, when you see this cross, you should be just yeeting through the jungle here, running up and going here. And I would say it takes roughly like 40 seconds, 45 at best to like get there. So like maybe you could have made it at this point here. But ideally I would have just gone mid lane, ignore the bot fight, just took some jungle camps. Like, going bot after everything's dead just kind of doesn't do anything. You can always react later, like the first tower's always going to fall. But seeing that you had everything like Flash, Ghost and all that, and then used your ult and Ghost on the Mundo, it's like the first like huge mistake you made this game. In terms of like having like a big impact and like being able to 1v9 in the game. Like at this point you should have been on Baron, you should have tried, or at least like given it a 4. Because in a perfect world, you definitely can kill them all. Like, if played well, you can definitely kill them all. If not, you kill like 1 or 2 or 3 people. Like, they're all stacked. So like, even if you don't stop the Baron, like getting 2 or 3 kills is better. Because again, you're just waiting for the next fights and team fights anyway, so. That was definitely a huge blunder. I mean, it's not your fault that your team died, but like, you don't like recognize the moment or opportunity. It's bad. Positioning here is decent. And you're not level 12, you don't have your... You do have your far side, okay. We're gonna look at this again. Yeah, we see Leona ultimate being used. You pop your ult. You have no vision. It's fine. It's fair. No, I mean, sorry, definitely should have put a ward in the bush there. Did you have W though? Again, I'm not gonna micro everything to like pixel detail, but just general. Auto, W. Okay, this is completely fine actually. Again, kind of just seeing the same thing with like blowing ulti at wrong timer. Like, you can make there can be made an argument that you wouldn't have known, or like that it could have gone differently, but it wasn't like the most optimal situation, although it's fine. But it really sucks to like lose your ulti there. Whereas if you had held it for a bit, then you possibly could have got something. And But now we see that your ulti is actually popping off here, right? And she lives. This is extremely good. And what you should be doing now is spam pinging dragon. Going there is 5. Ensuring that you get it. Because unless you're going to recall at this point, then this farm is irrelevant. So in terms of 1v9ing the game again, like a big mistake here is going for that farm. You want to push objectives, you want to get yourself ahead, and that farm is not going to contribute a lot. Like 5-6 pings on the dragon, literally running there, clicking it and just attacking it. Spam pinging assisting your jungler, like that's what things you need to do. In terms like if you want to win this game, like 1v9 it completely. You need to micromanage your team sometimes. Because now, if the enemy team gets this, you're going to be in a worse situation again. Whereas if you got it, you would have been completely fine. Possibly you could have killed Evelyn as well if she decided to come for it. She didn't have ultimate. Or flash. So as long as you would have been in the pit and Kayn would have been outside, it should have been fine. Like even just lingering the edges there. So you can engage on Evelyn if she shows on Kayn. But again, you should not lose that dragon if you would have gone for it together. This is definitely not the time to take dragon. It's probably a misclick though. I'm not going to make much more of that. But at this point it does seem like you are going to get this dragon, so it's completely fine. But even the fact that you did get this dragon doesn't like change the fact that if you did it earlier, like this isn't as good as if you would have done it earlier, even though they all died. Like this isn't like a guaranteed outcome. Like you really need to push for those dragons, like the objectives, when able. Because like small amounts of farm that you're not going to get to utilize for like the next 5 minutes anyway, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I would still classify the fact that you didn't ping or like recognize that you could take dragon as like a mistake. It is obviously very tempting to take the farm when you see a cannon minion or something, but like if the jungler's not going, like you need to do it. Like you need to tell him like, hey bro, come here. Take the dragon, bro. La Emerald, I think. The fact it didn't use the ultimate, yeah, is really good. But this is unfortunate. You can see the Evelyn is spam pinging the dragon. I mean Baron. And like showing the perspective of like what you need to do. But it doesn't seem like they're wanting to do it. As for items, I think the build is completely fine. Like I obviously would have liked like a Blade of the Ring King or like some additional damage. But Jack Show against Evelyn is definitely viable. The fact that they have like 2 free squishies makes his build completely fine. Like Mundo is not like a definite threat. You just have to like make sure you're positioning yourself correctly, so you don't end up in the situation that you had earlier where you were just stuck auto attacking the Mundo and then you just got picked off after. You want to aim to put yourself in a place where you can just create that explosive team fight, hit the right people, and ideally not put yourself in situations where you just end up hitting a tank or something. So if that means that you have to just sit back and literally do nothing, waiting for like things to happen, then that might be just what you need to do. I like the healing reduction here. That is fine. I definitely do think that, I mentioned that in my video too, that Mortal Reminder with this build is completely fine. And definitely viable. But the fact that you're going for the side wave now, when your team is grouped mid lane, is also really bad. It is probably one of the things I struggle with the most too, is where if my team is doing something, I just want to do what I want to do anyway. And I end up kind of like trolling the entire game because of it. But sometimes you can't really change that. So if your entire team's going somewhere, or like if you want to fight mid lane but you need your tank, but he's refusing to go away from top lane, then the right play is actually to just go top lane and just go behind him and just follow him. Like, it is just how you have to play. And your flash there was not good. In those kind of situations, you don't want to flash forward. You want to be conservative, and ideally just let them play into you. You played into them now, and it's a lot easier to punish someone playing into you as opposed to someone like opposite. That's an example with like they're walking towards you, it's a lot easier for you to kill them, whereas if you're like running into them, if that makes sense. Again, now like kind of like dying using a flash before the dragon is also definitely a mistake. Right, you have your ultimate coming up, so even though flashing like dying there was bad, like you probably would have died anyway, but like the flash there was should never have happened. And you can see you have like kind of like nothing you can add here now. You don't have the flash to reposition. You get exhausted. And you can't really do anything. Although ideally you should have been earlier. But because you died, you are kind of limited. Like your team is like there. Kane died. Like, okay, I guess the situation is not as good. But it's still kind of playable. But Sarah's not putting any wards. Really annoying. Yeah. If you had flash up here, stood on this side here, and had full vision, you can change. Hitting them, you definitely could have picked some people, but at this point the dragon is probably dead anyway because of Kane dying. But again, that just leads back to you dying before and not being with your team. And in this situation here, like everything is dead. They're not focused on anyone. I mentioned this in the laning to you. You want to make situations 2v1, 1v2. And here you're just putting yourself in a 1v5 situation where they have nothing else to focus on. Whereas if they're going Baron, it's an example, then they kind of focus on that and it just makes it easier. They're also going to be clumped up, but then you just go in here and die for nothing. So when that play happens and you have everything and you're in a position to walk away, what you want to do again is just pull back. And then you should try this when they're on Baron and not there. So like just acknowledging like, okay, they're all dead. I can't do anything here. Opening is here stupid. And if you are going to like do the high risk, high reward play, then you definitely should do on Baron. and not after your entire team's dead and they have nothing to focus. Like if they're all focusing on the dragon, meaning they would have been stacked here, it would have been an entirely different story. But the fact that they're just walking around, have nothing to focus on, and just are able to just go in instantly, it just makes it like an awful situation. And most times you'd never want to go for this place because it's so easy for them to just split up or like just jump on you instantly, which is what we saw there. Whereas if they're on the dragon, they usually have two options: they either run towards you or they run into the Baron. I'm doing alright. Just doing a VOD review, which is finished now. Alright. Is it a guarantee that you could have won this game? No. Was there a chance for you to win this game? Yes. And I pinpointed those, and both of them are actually centered around the Baron mostly. And the minor mistake of not going for with your team. On the plus side, the positives, your recall timers are actually not bad. Like, they're completely decent. You are, generally speaking, always on point for Baron or like objectives. But in situations like this, you just generally have to play with your team. You can't go to the side and farm this here in situations like this, because at the moment Jax is doing that. And there's only one person there. But if someone on the top lane was there, then you could potentially go. But most of the time, you just want to play with your team here. Again, the thing that lost you the game, or prevented you from being able to 1v9, were both the Barons. First one here, where you went in for the Mundo after your entire team died, instead of going on Dragon and potentially trying to kill them all, while having your ultimate flash and ghost available. And then again on the second one, where you died right before the dragon, using your flash into them. And dying like that. Those are the two things that like majorly prevented you from 1v9ing this game. Combined with the fact that you don't seem to like really push objectives when you have the ability to do so. Because when the Evelyn was dead and you didn't go for the dragon, that was a big mistake too, in terms of just winning the game 1v9. However, that is usually not a factor. So general things that you need to work on is just choosing when to use your ultimate later in the stage of the game. Like, you opted for some really bad ultimates at times where you weren't really able to get anything with it. Like in the tribal share at some point you did, and it didn't lead to anything. You use your W well in the wishes for vision, which I like to see. But you have to understand the power of ulti on Twitch and just choosing the correct situation. Like, because Twitch without ultimate in team fights is nothing. Like, you're not going to be able to contribute much, especially if you're playing this board, if you don't time your ultimates well. And that is like one of the major differences between like a high elo Twitch and a low elo Twitch. So just paying more attention to when you use the ultimate. Don't blow your flash randomly. Save it for dragons and barons. If dragons just died, you are fine to do it. But generally speaking, rule of thumb is just save your flash for dragon or baron. Play for those. Go with your team in later stages of the game, because obviously you want to force team fights, because that's where you can have the most impact. And then laning phase. like your mistakes there, it's just not knowing what to do. You seem quite lost. Like your timers were fine, but again, like first off, items were garbage. You definitely want to go pickaxe or something. So like build path, I would reconsider. But the major thing here is just not seeming to have any idea what to do with the wave. Just kind of like autopiloting the entire thing, and then transitioning into late stages of the game, playing completely average, and that is not really going to do anything. So just understanding the like options you have when you push a wave or what you're doing is something you need to learn. And you don't want to put yourself in situations that you did here where you're under the Leona. It's like, I'm not sure if it's autopiloting or just not respecting or just a slight lack of understanding of how they work, but you want to like pay more attention to that. It's like your lane opponents understand what they will do to you and what they can do to you, and then respect that. We saw that with the Sarah as well, which is getting caught by the Leona and Jhin and just dying for nothing. Just like you go engage them by Leona on the turret and then dying. Like, those are things that should not happen. So, just generally speaking, laning phase is probably where you could gain the most. Like, just fine-tuning that. Stop autopiloting that hard. And then, once you tune that out, like, once you improve your laning phase, like, understand that if you get the shove here, that you can get more control of the enemy jungle, as an example, and put pressure. Because as an enemy jungler, you never want to be in a situation where your lanes are shoved in and they enter your jungle. That is a nightmare, especially now with this patch here, where people are less healthy in the jungle. Like, it's literally nightmare fuel. Okay? So you really need to take advantage of that. Because at the end of the game, it's just about surviving laning phase or dominating laning phase, transitioning into later stages of the game, playing the objectives, winning team fights, and then taking the Nexus. That's all there is to this game. Like, your mechanics are like very, like, completely decent. The biggest mistakes you do is just wasting your ultimate at random points, dying for nothing at certain times, and then at vital points when you have certain power spikes, you don't seem to group with your team or like force favorable conditions for you to win the game. So I think if you just improve that, make that better, you're going to have a lot more success. But this is just one mistake in lane. Like, letting this happen, not shoving it in, like shoving third wave in with cannon on the turret, taking control enemy jungle, pressuring them, like that's just like a small part of it. But like the fact that you don't do that and it's only 3 minutes into the game, that's really bad. So definitely like you need some more experience, understanding of like how the lane works, and then after that, lane is just to get your items. After that, it's just everything else, and the general thing for you at this point is just to know when to use your ultimate at the right times. Like, just don't blow it randomly for nothing. And I think you're going to see decent improvement overall if you do that. And don't rush Hurricane. Thank you. That is all. Alright. I end this. Boom.